Now to our focus for the month under review, and that is the persistent unemployment in Nigeria. On August 14th, the National Bureau of Statistics released the unemployment data for the second quarter of 2020, and the figures are striking because it revealed that about 21.7 million Nigerians are unemployed. To discuss this, I have Mayowa Tijani, editor of business and development at the cable newspaper. Thank you for joining us, Mayowa.
Thank you for having me.
I also have Ibrahim Anoba, the managing editor of African Liberty, an economic freedom publication based in Arlington, Virginia, in the U.S. African Liberty has fellows across the African continent. Welcome, Ibrahim.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to join you on the show.
Now coming to you, Ibrahim. Nigerian government have put in place various social programs trying to create employment. Do you think they are sustainable in the reduction of unemployment?
Well, it's a beautiful idea on paper to see all these projects coming out from the Nigerian government. I mean, we've always been calling on the government to be proactive as regards the unemployment crisis in the country. So you are seeing projects like Trader Money and Empower, then you want to be happy, but there is always two sides to a coin. And we have to look at the other side of things here, which is often the unseen side of the unemployment crisis in the country. That as much as we see government, or as we are seeing government as the solution, we have to see government as the problem towards the solution and not in itself the solution. So the idea that government must always be the primary employer of labor, build more factories, well, it shouldn't be done like that. Trader Money or Empower can give you 700,000, 750, whatever number of employed Nigerians in 4 years. But after the 4 years, government's revenue or government's budget for Trader Money and Empower will not be the same. So, in other words, it might not be sustained.
Oh, so how do you think government can do, or how or what do you think government can do to create massive sustainable employment?
The best assured way to have sustained employment in an economy is to empower the private sector. So a key step in creating or making the private sector become more of a stronger employer of labor is to reduce taxes on that we charge on these corporations. And besides that, we have to look at other forms of regulations that mitigates against, the expansion of the private sector. For instance, start from the basics. How hard is it to register a business in Nigeria? It's one of the hardest things to do in this country. As a matter of fact, the business registration ordeal in Nigeria is one of the most feared across Africa because it's just so difficult. Then after you register your business, you want to employ people, the government will give you loads of textbook on what you can do, what you cannot do. So much regulations that just mitigate against the expansion of businesses, and a business cannot employ until it's expanding. Business only employ when they are opening new branches or when they have further roles that needs to be filled in the company. But if you are regulating these companies and not allowing them to grow, then they cannot employ. And the best assured way to have sustained employment in an economy is to empower the private sector. And it's clear how to empower the private sector. Reduce regulations on them, particularly taxes, and give them more freedom to operate while you moderately oversee their affairs, but not get involved in their affairs or just, blindly regulate them. And I think that's the best way to guarantee more employment opportunities for Nigerians in the future.
Mayowa, unemployment rate was 23.1% in the last quarter of 2018, and it rose to about 27.1% in the second quarter of 2020. Now, was it COVID-19 that escalated this unemployment, or we are likely to see a figure close to this even if there was no COVID-19?
Of course, COVID-19 would have its own role to play, but the unemployment rate in Nigeria has been on the increase since 2014, and we've seen that grow by a certain percentage consistently up until 2018. So with the headwinds, oil prices, economic direction of the country and all that, it was going to increase anyway. So COVID-19, in fact, if you look at the numbers, some of us feel like it should be more than that. But if you look at underemployment, you see that that's where the real number is, of course. So COVID-19 might have, of course, added to the problem, but there was an existing problem of increasing unemployment in the country.
Okay, Mayowa, before now, education is always advocated like as a tool for fighting unemployment. But this latest data showed that over 2 million bachelor's degree holders, thousands of masters and thousands of PhD holders are unemployed. Is education not paying anymore, or what is happening with education?
I think what exactly is happening at this point is that there's a problem with the education system. The education system, if you look at numbers, people who are not educated and people that are educated, the numbers are about the same when it comes to unemployment. So it means that education does not directly translate into employment today. So what it means is that the education system that was training people for employment 10, 20 years ago is no longer fit to train people for those kind of employment this year, this century, this time. So I think that what needs to change is the mode of education, the kind of education, and what that education delivers for you in society.
Okay, bringing this down to Sokoto State, looking at the fact that National Bureau of Statistics had in an earlier report, I think early this year, put Sokoto State as the state with the highest number of poor people in the country. That is about more than 80%. What does this mean for Sokoto State?
One of the things NBS said quietly or carefully in that particular unemployment report was that unemployment is not equal to poverty. So if you look at the states with the highest level of unemployment, those states, when it comes to poverty, they are not the states with the highest level of poverty. So unemployment and poverty, according to both reports, are not proportional. But what it also says is that in some states, the people who are willing to work are limited. So in those states, when there's that kind of thing, even if many people are not working, if they are not willing to work, they cannot be counted as part of the workforce per se. So we might have a number that is not so much in Sokoto compared to some other states, but it doesn't mean that the level of employment in the state is high.
All right, gentlemen, that was Ibrahim Anoba, the managing editor, African Liberty, an economic freedom publication based in Arlington, Virginia, in the U.S. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you. It's an honor to join you on the show, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Business and development editor, the cable newspaper, Mayowa Tijani. Thank you also for helping us make sense out of this data.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
And that is the much we have in the month under review. On behalf of the editor, I'm Qasim Suleiman.